When I was looking into FPO for the beginning of this segment, but also for my top 10, which you heard me talk about my top 10 at the beginning of this episode. The link's in the description below if you want to check that out. Basically, if you're listening to this on audio, you can head to foundationdiscs.com, scroll to the bottom, you'll see a link for blogs. It'll take you right to it. But when I was looking into it, I noticed something weird. Okay?
Yes.
With the European payouts. So the PDGA Tour Standard, I know this, I double-checked it today, make sure I wasn't crazy. PDGA Tour Standard requires open fields to pay out 40% at PDGA-sanctioned events.
Yeah.
Upon farther investigation, that only applies to North America. It literally says North America payout restrictions.
Super odd.
Yeah. So after searching for almost an hour, literally, maybe even longer, I don't really remember. I kind of got lost in the sauce of PDGA's website.
There we go.
After searching for a long time, though, the only European-specific rules document I could find was the bylaws by the European Board of Directors that was in Finnish. And I translated it from Finnish to English, and it said nothing about payout, so that was a waste of my time. But there's also no European tour standards I could find. But what's weird is the Prodigy Disc Pro Tour, which is the European, a bigger tour in Europe, from what I can tell.
Yeah.
It's paying about 25% of the field instead of 40%.
Which, in fairness, is something that we kind of root for.
Yeah, well,
we want less people getting paid out.
It also got rid of the minimum payout requirements. And by that, I mean, right now in a PDGA event, if a field has 4 players, they're requiring you to pay 2, which is technically 50%.
And you found a division where it was 4 and 1 paid out.
Yeah,
right?
They had a division of 4, and they stuck to 25%, only paying the winner out. Now, in the European Tour, we've talked about cutting this, the Pro Tour and stuff, cutting payouts back and what it would do to pay out. In the European Tour over there, 25% payment, the breakdown between first to second, second to third, and so on and so forth.
It's not great.
It wasn't massive.
No.
But even with that, even with the breakdown being almost worse, to be honest with you, than in the U.S. as far as difference between first to second and so on, it still created a 5% payment increase for the top of the field.
Yeah.
What does that mean physically? It means $2,000 more for Eagle at D-Glow. It means $3,000 more for Ricky at Ledgestone. And it means $1,500 more for Calvin at Memorial. Mm-hmm. And that's if they didn't change the brakes.
Right.
That's just keeping things where they are, but we're only paying out 25% of the field.
Yeah.
So it raises a few questions that I think we can definitely talk on for a little bit. First thing first, why is there a different standard for European events?
Well, when you first said that, I kind of was I was trying to think of the language they use and the verbiage with North America, but I'm thinking, so if you're the PDGA and you're making that rule about the payout, the only reason you write North America specifically is if there has to be a good reason for that. You wouldn't just include North America in your verbiage for when you're writing that rule out about payouts, something so applicable to every tournament.
Yeah.
So there must be a reason. There must be either some kind of law within the U.S. It can't be within the U.S. Probably outside of the U.S.
Because, you can look at golf tournaments and know it's not within the U.S.
So, it doesn't mean there's something to do with, outside the U.S., there's a law where, you're not allowed to do that?
Who is regulating tournaments other than the regulating body
I'm not
themselves?
saying disc golf tournaments, but, even just payouts for, people winning competitions. I don't even know. But there's got to be something there, right? Or, why are you writing North America? And why just North America, though? We should look up the Japan Open payouts, and I wonder if because the PDGA had a bigger hand in that.
Well, the Japan Open was a major at that point.
That's what I'm saying. They have a big hand in that.
I'm pulling it up.
That's not that wouldn't surprise me if that's still paid out 40% because the PDGA is directly running that. Whereas these European tours, it may literally just be a case where the Finnish tour started doing their own thing, and the PDGA was like, This actually may have been what happened. They might have just been like, we don't really care what goes on with the payouts over there, but we're going to change the language in our rules so that people can't call us on it.
That doesn't make any sense, though. Why would they not care? Why do they care? Why would they care in
because
the US
it doesn't affect any of their national tour or anything. It's not a super big concern. Also, the purses aren't huge either.
Well, I would say that that is true. The purses are not huge.
There's not a lot at stake.
But it just doesn't make sense. I don't think there's any way that it makes sense to me. I'm looking at it in one of two scenarios, right? I'm looking at it as either this is a look at the future of the PDGA or this is a look at the past of the PDGA. And what do I mean by that? So the future side, when you hear players go over to Europe for the European Open and for other tournaments, they talk about how much more serious the sport is taken over there.
Right.
How they're treated like celebrities. You know, they've literally, I think Paul's literally been picked up by the airport with a car with his face on the side. Like it was like almost wrapped or like had magnets on it. And, you know, they had signings set up left and right. And when people saw them, they freaked out. You look at the European Open, that 18th green, it's always wrapping people. It's treated a little bit more professional over there. So from that standpoint, is this a look at the future? Or is this a look at the past? Because when it comes to tournaments, it's nowhere near as developed over there. If you look at the U.S. currently, sanctioned events, I believe there was close to 900 sanctioned events currently in the U.S. right now. And if you look at Europe, it was 40, and I believe it was like 46 if you included China and Australia.
Yeah.
So is it more of a case of like, it's already going on, there's only 40 events, you know, the European board agrees with what's going on over there, the U.S. board disagrees, but what's the real battle? It's 40 events.
Well, that's what I'm saying. They might have just like seen that that's what's happening.
Or if we go back in history, I don't know this answer. I don't even know if I can look this up actually. If we go back in history, I wonder if the payment structure requiring 40% is a newer thing in the U.S.
Right,
and it's like
that rules implemented.
Yeah, like I wonder if that's a thing of once there's more and more events. What year was the Japan Open, by the way? 2015? 2014?
No, it could have been 2015 because Paul didn't win the Japan Open. So was it 2014?
I don't know. I searched Japan Open and it brought up every tournament that said Open that happened to be in Japan, and there was a lot of them. Okay, 2014 Japan Open.
Yeah.
It was a major. There was 118 players, and they paid out 58 of them. So that's about right. That's about 40%. Mm-hmm. So yeah, when it's a major, the PDGA implements their own thing.
I'm thinking it's just like the Europeans just want to do their own thing, and then the U.S. board was kind of just like, okay, but let's make sure we update our rules so that people know that our stuff only applies to North America. We'll let them do their own thing. That's
still just very, very interesting to me.
It is curious, but like you were mentioning, like there's not enough events going on over there for it to be a huge impact on anything. Like nobody's paying attention to that. That's something that we kind of found because we look into that sort of thing sometimes with the pay scales, but like nobody's thinking of that as a really big deal.
But you also don't hear players over there complaining about it.
Right. Well, it's because the purses aren't as big.
Yeah.
And now I guarantee you, if you have, I mean, it won't happen at the European Open or even the PCS Open probably because I feel like the PDGA cares more about those, especially when like the PCS Open, like Eagle's going to be there.
Yeah.
But like if there was a European, like a Finnish Open or something like that over there, and they had like a $50,000 purse, or let's say like $100,000 purse, and they were paying out 25%, then people might be like, oh my gosh, like look at that. I think it would
draw
raise
attention from the U.S.
That's what I'm saying.
I'm saying European players, I don't think would care.
No, they're not going to care. I'm saying the U.S. might be like, oh, whoa.
Yeah, we did notice too. I was looking at some of the payouts. So the Prodigy Pro Tour, I forget what event specifically this event was, but the total purse was a little bit over $8,000. And when it was an only pro event, when you divided that by the amount of players, it was $62 a player. So there's one of two scenarios. Either they're charging players like nothing to get into these events, and then they had added cash, like $30 to get in, and then have $4,000 added cash. Or the players are paying $60 to get into this event, and there's no added cash. I don't know which scenario it is. Regardless, you know, when it comes to the payout of these events, the winners were taking home on the MPO field. Winners were taking home like $600 to $800, and the FPO field was taking home like $200 to $300.
I feel like European events have always had really good sponsors. Like they've always done really well with that. Like didn't they have like Ford?
Well, I mean, this is Prodigy's in the title, so you would assume they put up some type of money to be there.
Like I feel like there's gonna be some added cash involved.
So then why? So then they're really only charging players $30 to play in what they're calling a Prodigy Pro Tour?
I don't know what's going on over there.
Yeah, I don't know. There was a lot of stuff that I could not find details on. And this is not the Euro Tour. The Euro Tour is something I couldn't tell if it was new in 2021. I don't think it is, but it's kind of rebranded in 2021. It seems to kind of be like a more attention is going to be on the European Tour. There's going to be coverage of it.
I would love to see a really good European Tour.
I think this is what the Euro Tour is trying to be.
Right.
They just signed some type of contract where there's going to be coverage of it all next year.
Oh, that's awesome.
I think that'll be great for exposure because I think there's a lot of players in Europe that us in America are sleeping on right now.
Oh, I know it.
And so I think being able to see some of the things that these guys and girls can do over there. The girls, I don't think we're sleeping on that much because we know Evelina, we know Henna, we know Kristen Tatar. They've made noise. The MPO, I feel like we're sleeping on.
Yeah, no, there's some, I think Ulti World's done some articles, or maybe it was Disc Golf Magazine. I think it was Ulti World, about like, you know, young and promising, like top 20 type articles. And like a lot of them are just these young, like German and Finnish guys that I've never even heard of. And they're gross. Like they're so good.
Yeah. It's definitely an interesting development. Exciting to see more coverage over there. But back to the payout, just the cut from 40% to 25%. Is that cut alone good or bad for the sport? And why do you think, whichever way you think?
I mean, we've always argued for the less players getting paid out because we're trying to discourage guys that are just like, you know, maybe barely making payout. Just we're trying to, you know, make the Pro Tour the best product we can have. They've even tried doing that by doing rating minimums and gotten shut down before, but it's coming. It's going to happen. There's going to probably be qualification for the Pro Tour soon. It's going to happen.
Yeah, there's no way around that.
Right. But like that's the reason why we argue for this. Number one, we want to see the best players in the world make good money when they win, right? We want to see big checks handed out to winners.
Yeah, because that's going to be more and more motivation for you to.
Right.
I don't now. This might sound crazy because I know other sports are the same way. I just hate the idea that it's blatantly obvious in disc golf that the majority of players are making their living off the course.
Right.
And to where if you're a top 10 player, your performance doesn't really matter that much. You need to be good enough to stay relevant. But other than that, as long as your signature discs are selling, you're able to do some commentary stuff like that, you're making your living. You're happy. So when you look at a Simon, an Eagle, Rick, whatever, if you don't care about winning just for the sake of winning, that $3,000 you just got, that doesn't really make a big of a difference because you're getting, you know, you might be getting $10,000 that month from your outside sponsorship. You might even get more than that month from your outside sponsorship, all this other stuff. So what's the difference between, you know, as long as you're finishing up there, why does it matter? Yeah. Whereas when that number starts getting more and more up there, where it's like, okay, well now that's $10,000. Yeah. Now we're talking.
I think it's going to happen. And I mean, it's one of those things, it's another one of those things that the Pro Tour probably, it wouldn't surprise me if the Pro Tour wants to do it. And it's probably another one of those things that makes them wonder, like, should we still be with the PDGA if they're going to force this upon us? Like, I wonder if the PDGA doesn't get flexible in the coming years with what the Pro Tour wants to do, if they'll just be like, we're out of here.
Yeah, because that's my thing is, for a normal tournament, like if I was going to go run a B tier tomorrow, or not even a B tier, I was going to just go run a tournament and I didn't sanction it.
Right.
I have no governing body at all. Mm-hmm. The Pro Tour still has a governing body that can still enforce stuff, still do fines, still make sure players adhere to a standard. It's the Pro Tour standard, and they enforce PDGA rules.
Right.
They still have that. When I think about this, I think that this restriction is great. The 25%, not restriction. This cut is great to fit 40% to 25%. I think that's great for the Pro Tour, or even for Pro Tour National Tour majors. I do not think this should change at all looking at A tiers and lower, because A tiers and lower, a lot of events are going to almost require that draw to draw in local pros and casual players of like, hey, you know, if I come in 4th out of 10th at this tournament, I'm going to get paid instead of I got to come in top 2 and Chris Dickerson and Zach Melton just showed up at my local C tier. I'm screwed.
Local events are more about, you know, your decision making is a lot more about, hey, can I go have a good time and have a chance to make my money back?
Yeah,
it's not about, let me go win this prestigious event.
Yeah, on the Pro Tour, however, I think
it's a different thing. On the
Pro Tour is supposed to be the best of the best competing. Right. So yes, if this change were to happen, finishing 30th might get you $0 instead of $500, and this is actual math. Finishing 30th now gets you 0 instead of 500, but finishing 25th means you get $1,200 instead of $600 if they stuck to the same breakdown that we're seeing on the European tour.
So just bump yourself up a few spots and make even more.
So now it's like, I sacrificed $500 this tournament, but now I'll make all of that and $600 more if I finish 5 spots higher next tournament. Mm-hmm. You just made $100 more because you're able to go 30th, 25th than if you went 30th in those two events.
Yeah.
That's just something to look at is like, I think in the long run, it would, yes, it might make it less attractive to a random player to come play the Pro Tour, but that's what you want because we're calling this the Pro Tour. This, if it's anyone can come play, it shouldn't be the Pro Tour.
Yeah.
We need to rebrand it. You know, then it should just be the Open Tour because it's open. This isn't the Open Tour. This is the Disc Golf Pro Tour. And, I think that we are 1 or 2 decisions away from being at the tour card level, the qualification process level. And I think once we get there, that is a great thing for the sport, especially just for viewership, for being taken seriously, for outside sponsors, all of the above.
It's going to do so much for professionalism. I mean,
Yeah.
and just as a player, being able to make a name for yourself, like, you'll be able to say, yeah, I play on the Pro Tour, and we'll be able to be like, well, then he must be good because he's got his tour card.
Yeah, he's on the Pro Tour.
If he's on the Pro Tour, then he's legit.